Hey everyone, I just wanted to put this disclaimer at the beginning of the episode. Apparently, Dolores did a little more damage than we thought, and the technical issues carried on into our second recording. And there was no way I could really fix it, so rather than have to scramble and re-record the whole thing, I edited as is. And I know it's a bummer because this is the Halloween episode, so it was really important to me to make it as great as possible for you guys, but I hope you understand, and it's better than nothing. So everything after the spoiler intro coming up might sound really echoey and reverby, but hopefully I think I isolated the issue and it shouldn't happen again, fingers crossed. So with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoy. Warning, the following podcast contains spoilers, so if you don't want to know that Ben Tramer gets run over by a police cruiser, crushed into the side of a van that catches on fire, stop listening now.
The International House of Horror.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the International House of Horror podcast, a low-budget podcast for low-budget horror movies. I'm your host, Rocco, aka the Mad Pancaker, and across from me is my co-host, none other than Scary Perry.
Hello.
How you doing over there, Scary Perry?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing better. This is our second attempt at recording this, so had some technical difficulties.
It's
so
that damn Dolores' fault.
It is Dolores. She spilled soda all over our equipment, and what a bitch. Tips going down by the second, I tell you.
Dolores, I need a refill.
But hopefully all these issues are out of the way, and let's dive into it. To open the podcast, we're going to start with a segment I like to call Hot Cakes. It's a play on hot takes and, of course, hot cakes being another name for pancakes. And where it's a catch-all segment where we talk about various horror-related things that we might have gotten, received, or purchased, or watched recently that we might not have time to talk about in the future. So like any of the pictures of stuff I get in and I post on my accounts, stuff like that, but in podcast form. And just, other random stuff I might be watching. Or Perry might be watching. I guess I'll kick things off and showing off, got this in the mail the other day that I ordered, a special limited edition Blu-ray of Demons 1 and 2.
Looks fancy.
It does look fancy, and got a story behind this because this one is from Synapse Films. They did the North America release, but there's an Arrow video release, I think sometime last year, maybe early this year, but I was trying to pick it up. And the only reason I really wanted to pick it up was for this replica of the Metropool ticket to the theater from Demons 1 that I'm holding right here in my hand. Not quite an exact replica. I think the other one was a bit shorter and longer. More like a traditional movie ticket. This is almost more like a little bit bigger than a postcard size, but it still looks pretty cool.
I like it. It's shiny.
And that came with the Arrow edition, but you couldn't get the Arrow edition everywhere. It was sold out, and scalpers were charging a fucking arm and a leg for it. And I bit the bullet at $80 for one, like plus shipping it was like $88. I'm like, that's okay. And never came in the mail. And they didn't send me a shipping notification. Well, they sent me a notification, but they never sent me a tracking number. And I contacted them like, hey, I don't know if you have a tracking number, but I haven't received it yet. And I understand, with all the delays in the post office, that can be normal. And I was wondering, and I waited like a good month or two before I emailed these people. So it wasn't like, oh, they shipped it 3 days ago or a week ago. And, so they just like, yeah, we don't have a tracking number, so here's your money back. I'm like, well, that sucks. And I'd never lost a package before in the mail, so...
At least you get your money back.
Yeah, I got my money back.
I mean, if you don't use PayPal, some companies are like, oh,
but
well...
Joke's on all the scalpers, because I ended up getting this Synapse release, which what they did for North America. They also had it in 4K, but I don't have a 4K TV, so I figured this is good enough. I do have other 4K releases of stuff, but I just mainly purchased those for the goodies inside, posters and shit like that, and because the box art was cool and special edition. And Demons 1 and 2, if you haven't checked it out, they're very good movies, directed by Lamberto Bava, produced and written by Dario Argento and some other people, I believe. So, well worth a watch. We'll get to those down the line at some point, I'm sure. So, Scary Perry, anything you've been watching lately, horror-related?
So I work at home on a computer, and I watch this movies while I work. And watch one that I've seen a few times. It's been a little bit, but it's a movie I like. It's called Orphan. It's a 2009 horror/thriller film. This movie has a crazy twist in the end. Not as crazy as Sleepaway Camp, but crazy. It has. I think this is before she started doing the Conjuring movies. As Vera Farmiga as one of the what's the name of the Conjuring people?
Oh, I forget their names.
Yeah, she plays.
I'm not too into that series, but I know the people you're talking about.
I think this was like right before, but it's a good movie. The twist is weird, but I enjoyed it.
Gotcha. Cool. So I watched the other day, and it was awesome because I've been meaning to watch this since we watched it on Amazon Prime, the sequel, but the sequel wasn't available anywhere. But it was finally, I saw it on Tubi. So Waxwork 2: Lost in Time, starring Zach Galligan of Gremlins fame, and he reprises his role from the original. If you haven't seen the original, it's batshit crazy and great, and the sequel is just as batshit crazy, if not crazier, and it's a really good time. It's kind of got like a low point in the middle where it's like, kind of slows down, and it's like, okay, this great, and now it just kind of went off the rails, and not in a good way off the rails, like just crazy off the rails. It just like started meandering, and it's like, okay, but then it got back on track and goes crazy by the ending. So overall, very good. I'm sure we'll get around to some of those films someday, but for now, if I had to give it a quick score, I'd say 4 pancakes, maybe higher.
That's good.
And the only good thing about this being our second attempt at recording this is I did remember one other thing I picked up was, and now this is in the video game category. So there's this little pixel art game, I think it's only like $15 or something, called Lamentum, and it's kind of like a throwback to like Resident Evil and Silent Hill in the survival horror category, but it plays like a top-down Legend of Zelda style exploration game. So it combines the two elements, and with the pixel art, graphics are kind of like Splatterhousey, not 100%. It's a little more pixely than like Splatterhouse even was, because that's how that pixel art style is nowadays. It's like super pixely intentionally, but very, very, very fun. Very cool. Be something worth checking out if you like, especially if you like the old item management of the Silent Hill and Resident Evil series. It's probably a little bit more like Silent Hill in the confusing plot department and the surrealism of it and the dreamlike nature of it, but very cool. It's kind of got like this Cthulhu-esque Lovecraftian feel to it. It was a lot of fun. I'll have to revisit it. I think I got like the B ending or something, and it seems like there's multiple endings. And I picked up a ton of items that I never even knew what they did or what they go to or how they affect the game ever, because it's one of those type of games where you can miss stuff. So, and I didn't see a whole lot of walkthroughs for it yet, but I'm sure I'll revisit it and try to get all the endings at some point. For its price and for what it did, it was an impressive little game.
Sounds interesting. I might have to check it out.
Yeah. So you got any other hot cakes before we dive in?
No, not lately.
I think that's about all I got too. Oh, before I forget, so we finally did get our order in with Dolores. It took her all day after she spilled drinks all over the equipment here. Perry. Oh wait, Dolores. Inside joke there, but so we got our order in. So the chef of the International House of Horror, J Bones, is finally working on those pancakes. And J Bones, by his name, is a skeleton that is our chef. So yeah, we'll see how well those turn out being cooked by a skeleton. Also, a throw out to our friend JB. So if we ever get JB on an episode, he can be the voice of J Bones.
Would be a treasure.
I'm sure.
Dolores, where's my refill?
Good luck getting that.
Damn.
You'll be weighing at least 2 episodes. I know, totally. Anyways, on to our feature here that we're reviewing for today. We're reviewing Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween, to be specific, in 1978, because there's 3 films with the name technically Halloween. I know Carpenter throws his name in front of everything, so the first one can be referred to as John Carpenter's Halloween, and then Rob Zombie, also they refer to his as like Rob Zombie's Halloween.
Rob Schneider Halloween?
I don't know, but I think I would pay to see that. Don't ask me why.
Buy that for $1.
Oh. And then, of course, course, there's Halloween 2018. Again, we can't just give a sequel a number, but
Which I saw
but-
with you in the theater.
which is technically a sequel to the original Halloween. So we did watch that in theaters. But the original Halloween now has 3 separate sequels, direct sequels to it. So interesting stuff there.
Could say it's a popular franchise.
Totally. So we got this film here, and it stars Donald Pleasance playing Dr. Sam Loomis. We got Jamie Lee Curtis playing Laurie Strode, and other notables that were at least listed on the credits here of the box that I got here, the DVD I have, which is an older DVD. It was like special at the time from Anchor Bay. Not very impressive now, but I have some stuff to talk about the menus and stuff, which we're kind of...
Okay.
We'll talk about that later. So it mentions, of course, PJ Souls playing Linda, and then Nancy Loomis playing Annie. And an interesting note, so they really wanted to get Peter Cushing for the role, for Donald Pleasance's role as Sam Loomis, but a little film came out in 1977 called Star Wars that
Never
Peter
heard of that
Cushing was in,
What's that movie?
and he was deemed ungettable
So
afterwards.
you wanted the money.
Yep, so...
On a side note, there was a lot of people they tried to get to play Dr. Loomis. Obviously, Peter Cushing was their first choice. Their second choice was Christopher Lee, but I don't know what happened with that. And then they went with Donald Pleasance. But there was others also.
Yep. The 3 of them being predominantly English actors, and Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee doing a lot of Hammer horror stuff, starring together, so I know they were good friends, and they both eventually ended up in the Star Wars universe. Granted, one's film is better than somebody else's 2 films, but hey, you take what you can get, and you can't choose which Star Wars film you end up.
He had a good character, though, Christopher Lee.
Yeah, totally. Moving on from that. Film obviously directed by John Carpenter, presented by Mustafa Arcade. I believe presents most of these. I believe he's
Mustafa.
I mean, it always says he presents, but he's not actually the producer.
Yeah,
Which is weird because the producer's usually the person that funds the money.
there's only one producer.
Yeah, it's Deborah Hill.
On Wikipedia. They said he's a funder, I believe.
So he just gets the presents credit, but
Yeah.
I think he's since passed because obviously I think one of his relatives, I think his son or somebody, presented Halloween 2018.
I think there's another person too. It's Erwin Yablans.
Yeah, he's the executive producer. I'm looking at the back of the box here. So, presented by Mustafa Arcade, and co-written by Carpenter and Deborah Hill, his, at the time, wife, which eventually he dumped her for, Adrienne Barbeau.
You mean Big Tits Barbo?
Big Tits Barbeau. I love my father, but he's a bit of a dirty old man, and that's his nickname for Adrienne Barbeau. And I can attest, after having watched Swamp Thing with Ray Wise and Adrienne Barbeau, that they are indeed big tits. And a bit of a funny story behind that. So when working on The Fog, which John Carpenter directed, Deborah Hill was still producer on that film, and obviously they had recently broken up. And starring in the film was his now babe, Adrienne Barbeau. So awkward indeed, totally. And then, so the director of photography was Dean Cundy, and he's done a ton of other stuff too, big name stuff too.
I was looking at this guy's stuff, and the movie I saw recently he's done, which is a great movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Yep.
And then you look at his list, and you see incredible movies. Big Trouble in Little China, the Back to the Future movies. One of my personal favorite movies, Hook.
Hook.
Yeah, Hook.
I've heard a lot of people crapping on Hook lately.
Well, they can crap on themselves. Also, a little movie called Jurassic Park, and plenty of others.
And then I've heard people talk about that he doesn't quite do as well in this new digital age. Like, obviously, when photography was still very much, I don't know if the proper term would be analog-ish or just basically film, but when things started getting more digital with CGI, I've heard the quality has kind of taken a dive, but it doesn't take away from any of his great works.
You didn't like Jack and Jill?
I've never seen it, and I don't plan on seeing it.
I'll sadly admit that I've seen the movie, and
Totally
when I
seen
watch the movie, I'm not watching that movie, particularly for cinematography. So
Yeah, sure, you're probably not paying attention to it. But still one of the all-time great cinematographers. So director of photography there. A little bit background story about this film. So a lot of people, the common man, might say that this is the first slasher film. And that's not exactly true. Now, did it kind of set the formula for most of the slashers that came after it? Yes, but you could even argue that the formula was kind of created by some other films. Then a lot of people will point to Bob Clark's Black Christmas as being the first slasher film, and
Also,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre being an early one.
Psycho.
Yes. Technically, yeah. If we go back even further, in the 70s, and we had the Giallo craze going on in Italy, which they're kind of like pseudo-slashers, especially when you get to directors like Argento and Fulci, with a lot more gore in them and splattery, a little bit more, almost predecessor to the slasher genre, and inspiration to it. We go back even further, and Psycho's almost considered the first, but technically not quite the first. A few months earlier in the same year, I forget when Psycho came out. I want to say it was like 1958-ish, 55-ish, I'm not sure, somewhere in that range. But a few months before it, a film called Peeping Tom came out. So Peeping Tom, amongst knowledgeable people, I mean, I'm sure you can go back even further, but Peeping Tom is considered one of the more earlier slasher films, and tamed by today's slasher standards. I mean, it is a much more slower film, but it's still a very excellent film, and when I watched it, I was very impressed. And I like to call it the Alfred Hitchcock film, not directed by Alfred Hitchcock, because it's very similar in the way it's filmed and the suspense build up. So Halloween, not quite the first slasher, but still a very memorable film nonetheless. And before we move on from Psycho, though, it does have a few Psycho connections. So we have, I don't know if you knew this, Perry, but the character that Donald Pleasance played, his name obviously Sam Loomis, is the name comes from a character from Psycho that has a Sam Loomis, which I believe is Janet Leigh's boyfriend, or Janet Leigh. I always screw up her last name.
Yeah, tomato. But I did not know that. That's interesting.
But yeah, I believe plays her boyfriend that goes looking for her after she goes missing. And another connection there, obviously, Janet Leigh is Jamie Lee Curtis's mother.
This is Jamie Lee Curtis's first movie.
And then they both starred in John Carpenter's The Fog, if you didn't know that.
More awkwardness. No, wait, I don't know.
No, maybe.
It's all that damn big tits Barbeau's fault.
Yep, totally.
All right.
Moving on from the background information here, now we're going to dive into the synopsis here of the plot.
Wait.
All right.
You can't dive in. You got to tagline me first.
Oh, yes. So obviously we alluded to tagline as our hint to next week's episode in the previous episode. So tagline for this film, and I got it on the box here, and didn't talk about this in the first take, but this box cover, I've always liked this Halloween cover artwork and the poster artwork with the jack-o'-lantern, and it's all sinister looking, and then you just got the hand with the knife next to the jack-o'-lantern, and it blends in with the grooves of the jack-o'-lantern.
I think that looks sweet.
Unlike today's modern poster artwork where it's usually just a bunch of the actors on the fucking poster. They actually tried back in the day. But yeah, and we got the tagline on the box here, though, to go with it. The night he came home. Obviously referring to Michael Myers there.
Bomb.
So we go to the opening credits, and it starts off with John Carpenter's totally awesome Halloween theme. It's a fantastic score.
Oh, I love it.
And John Carpenter is well known for doing a lot of his own scores. He's an excellent musician, did the music for many of his own films. I love the music video bonus included in Big Trouble in Little China, which it's great. It's just got him and his other bandmates rocking out as they're making the theme to Big Trouble. Excellent musician and excellent director.
I was looking up just a little bit about it. It has a complex 5/4 time signature. You got influences for the score from Dario Argento's Suspiria and William Friedkin's The Exorcist.
Okay.
And then also from Suspiria, it influenced him to do slightly surreal color schemes for the movie.
Indeed.
All right.
Suspiria, another one of my personal favorites, and the Exorcist score is great, of course, and Goblin does a lot of excellent scores for movies as well, and all the members of the band, too. We got the opening credits here, and it's got this jack-o'-lantern, and it's zooming in on it as it's slowly during the credits, as it's playing the theme song, and showing the credits there. And so we cut to Haddonfield, Illinois, Halloween, 1963. So we got some kids that are repeating this nursery rhyme, kind of like a boogeyman nursery rhyme, I think, if I remember correctly. I didn't write exactly down what was in it here, but still sets the mood there. Music finally stops, and we got this POV for most of the entire opening here. So we got somebody that walks towards the Myers house, and it's the POV of Michael Myers, obviously, as a kid, which we don't quite know yet. So we see a guy and a girl through a door and a window, and they're making out on the couch, and that's Michael's older sister, and Michael's peeping on her through the windows there. So they go upstairs, upstairs, and it backs up, the shot backs up a little bit, and Michael looks up towards the window, and you see the lights are on, and then the lights go out, and we got a little stinger. I think Halloween has one of the best stinger musics ever with that very synthy stinger.
Yeah.
And they got 2 different variations on it, but one of the best stingers in horror score history. Michael finally goes inside, and the score starts to kick in, and he grabs a knife from the kitchen drawer here. And the guy upstairs leaves, and so Michael goes upstairs, and the clock chimes in the distance, so you know it's getting late. So Michael finds a clown mask on the floor, which I think is a little weird. We don't know it yet, but he's in his clown costume, so why wouldn't he already be wearing the mask? When did he take it off? When did he go inside the house previously? Unanswered questions that don't need answered, but when you watch a film enough times, you know, there's things that make you think about it.
You know, you miss stuff you didn't see before.
Yeah. He puts on the mask, so now we got the POV shot through the mask holes, which is very cool. So he goes into his older sister's room, and she's naked. So we got some titties.
Oh, let me stop you right here. We're talking about big tits, Barb. I'm talking about big tits. Myers here. Holy moly.
Totally.
I saw this. I'm like, shaboing. I mean, instant +1 to the movie. Instant +1.
Totally. I think this is our first actual nudity in the International House of Horror podcast.
It is. Yes, it is.
There was none in Intruder. It was teased in Chud the Dud. I mean, Chud.
Oh, God. It said it had sexual content in it. That movie didn't have no sexual content in it. Unless they think it's Chud sex.
Alas. But, so yeah, she's naked, so she yells at him and covers up her chest, and Michael ain't having none of that, so we got kill number 1. So Michael stabs his sister repeatedly with the knife. And I know a lot of people comment about this, and you kind of just notice it over the years that, and you won't be able to see this, audience, but I'm showing it to Perry, like, the knife is coming in, like, sideways, like, he's holding his arm, like, straight across in front of him and stabbing this way, which is not a motion, you would be going forward like this and not sideways like this. I mean, it works great for the cinematography,
Yeah.
but from a realistic standpoint, it's like, who the heck is knifing somebody sideways that's in front of them? And I don't even think, like, the knife is going anywhere close to her, but, you know, it's through the POV of the mask, so it works. And it's one of those things, you know, if the film was a shitty film, that'd be something you'd be picking it apart. If it's a fantastic film, it's something you overlook and you just kind of chuckle on after repeat viewings. And also this scene kind of, I feel like there may have been, well, even dating back to Psycho with Norman Bates having the knife. Ooh, maybe that should be the spoiler for this episode that preludes the episode. I haven't recorded it yet, so we can't do a quiz on it, but maybe that should be it. Do the Psycho one. I think I will go with that to cross that one off the list. Even still, I think Halloween kind of catapulted the kitchen knife into, it kind of cemented its place in horror cinema history as it's a frequent go-to weapon for slashers throughout slasher film history. So Michael goes outside after this, and his parents come home, and they unmask him. So now we finally switch from a POV after the mask comes up, and they're just like, Michael? And he just stands there holding the knife, dressed up as a clown, kind of in like a fugue state almost, just kind of has this like haze on him. Mm-hmm. So now we cut to 15 years later, 1978, which I got a lot to say about the dating here later on, and about the age error, but we'll come back to that in the credits, because I was watching and I wasn't 100% sure, because I remember hearing about this before, but once I got to the credits, then I knew it was a screw up. 1978, we're at Smiths Grove, Illinois, October 30th, 1978. So we're on All Hallows Eve. If you could even have an eve of an eve. To set the scene, we got thunderstorm going on, and Loomis and this nurse are driving to Smiths Grove Mental Institution. Loomis constantly refers to Michael as it throughout this conversation, because from his point of view, Michael Myers isn't human anymore. And he wants to make sure that he's drugged up. I believe they say the drug is Thorazine. He wants him essentially subdued during his hearing, and he wants him to be put away for life. He never wants him to get out, because as we'll find out later, he kind of just views him as evil, not even human.
Why are they having a hearing 15 years later? I understand he was
because he was a child.
But
it is a little weird, because you would be like, why?
Past the stage of a legal
yes,
adult.
because he was 6 years old when this happened, so he'd be 21. Usually the age of the age of adulthood is 18. Sometimes a little earlier depending on your state. I don't know if it can be later depending on your state. There might be a few are 21.
Maybe
Illinois is one of those.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think like there's a few places that didn't observe like daylight savings time and stuff like that. So things are a little different depending on where you go. That's like the premise for Erie, Indiana. Great show that I love. For one of the episodes was that Erie, Indiana doesn't do daylight savings time, which was true until a point. Indiana did not do daylight savings time, but then I checked and I'm like, oh, so now they do it.
I was
But
there last week. They do it.
Yep.
Are we on it? I
Yep.
don't know. I forget.
moving on from that point, as we got on a side tangent there,
Actually, we're not. We fought back already. Or no, we didn't. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. Keep going.
you might say we're doing a time warp again.
Let's do the time warp again.
We'll save that for the Rocky Horror episode.
I
But
refuse to do
feel-
it. What?
Oh, you'll do it. We're going to do the time warp when we do it too.
Oh, God.
I'll somehow make it so the music plays and then we're going to sing along and I'm going to do one part and you'll do another part.
I'm not
it'll
bringing a
it'll be the
spoon,
best
though.
episode ever.
No spoon.
Anyways, moving on. They arrive at the institute, and all the patients are out and about wandering the grounds. They're obviously like, that's strange. It's like, they shouldn't be out. And so Loomis gets out to check the gate. One of the inmates jumps on the car, and the nurse rolls down the window. Michael sticks his hand in. We don't know it's Michael yet, but it's pretty obvious it's going to be Michael. But
Yeah,
I don't know why when somebody jumps on your car, you roll the window down.
Yeah. When I was watching it at first, I'm like, I didn't know who the hell.
Yeah, it's Michael.
I just thought it was a random.
And so
invite.
I think she might accidentally put her foot on the gas, or maybe just puts her foot on the gas to try to shake him off. I'm not sure. So she puts her foot on the gas and starts driving erratically, eventually coming to a stop. And she backs away from the driver's seat towards the passenger seat. And from behind, you just see Michael's hand comes down and smacks that glass.
smacks that glass.
We'll cut that out. Whoops. Maybe we'll leave it in. Yeah, he smacks that ass. He just straight smacks this glass and fucking cracks it all over. It doesn't shatter, but it like cracks majorly. Man, this guy just fucking cracked that glass with his bare hand. I'm like, this guy is fucking totally hardcore.
For sure.
So the nurse gets out of the car. This is Michael's opportunity to hop in and drive away. And Loomis is like, he's gone. He's gone from here. The evil's gone. Like a raving lunatic there. Because obviously
He may
Loomis...
need some Thorazine.
Yeah, because Loomis views him as evil. So now we cut to Haddonfield, and it's Halloween. And we got Jamie Lee as Laurie Strode, and she's walking to school. And her dad, who's a realtor, has Strode Realty, tells her to leave the key to the Myers house under the mat for a showing he has later. And on her way over there, she runs into little Tommy Doyle. So she babysits Tommy on a regular basis. And she's going to babysit him tonight on Halloween. Tommy's asking a lot of questions because they're getting close to the Myers house. And he's like, why do they call it a spook house? That his friends say it's haunted. And we cut to a shot from inside looking out through the door of the dilapidated Myers house. And inside, you hear some breathing as she walks away. And then Michael kind of steps into the frame, into the foreground. And you get a stinger. And a totally awesome scene there.
Stinger.
Oh, that...
You going there now?
Yeah, we're going there now because that was something we should have talked about in Hotcakes. Completely forgot about it. All right, so let's finish up the thought here before. So yeah, we got the stinger, and then Laurie walks away, and Tommy wanders off. And then they're going to cut to another scene here in a second. So, but before we do that, we'll insert a hot cake here real quick.
All right. After saying intruder,
And we should have talked about this last episode because this all happened before the recording of the Chud episode, but we forgot about it, so we're doing it now.
so after watching Intruder, and when we were talking about it on the podcast, we're like, is this Sting the musician or Sting the wrestler?
Totally.
And you're going Sting the wrestler, and I'm
I
like,
started out Sting the musician, but then I'm like, why's he got this face? Maybe it's Sting the wrestler, like because of the face paint.
so I'm like, this is not. There's no way this is a wrestler. I tried to Google him with like Sting with red face paint, and of course you're gonna get Wolfpack Sting from the WCW and
Yeah,
was it
totally.
the NWO. But anyway, I couldn't find anything. So then I'm going into the movie and I'm watching the movie again because I want to see what's on this cover, and it says Tempo. It's like Tempo magazine, and I was looking at the words of it, and it's all in I could tell it's in German, and I'm like, wait, why do they have a German magazine in this movie? So I take a picture of it on my phone, and then I do a Google image search, and at first I find only one thing about it. It's actually for sale from some guy in Germany, but there's really not much about it. And then I'm like, okay, well, I found the magazine. But then I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, this is Sting, the musician. There was a little thing when I was looking at it. It said Amazon in the Amazon. I'm like, well, this has got to be paint from a tribe in the Amazon. So I'm Googling it. I can't find anything with Sting in the Amazon. I'm like, oh my God. And then finally, I found this one article where Sting wrote a book about the Amazon, and I tried to look at the book. I found it for sale. There's no photos showing it, and I'm like, you know what? It's like $4 on eBay, like 5 shipped. I'm gonna order it just on the whim that this may get me where I go. So I get it in the mail and I'm flipping through the pictures and Allah, I find the exact image of Sting on that. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to own this magazine. I did all this work. I want to own this magazine. So I go back to that guy on eBay. He does not ship to the United States. I asked him how much it would cost to ship to the United States. It was like $8 or something because he gave me the whatever German's currency is. I'm horrible with currency. And
the Deutschmark.
The Deutschmark.
Oh, well, no, they use the euro.
Yeah, the
because they're
euro.
European Union.
Yeah.
Totally.
So he figures out a way to do it. And end of the story. I own the magazine now, which is a very odd magazine, this Tempo magazine. And there's a lot of weird stuff like face hitting and weird stuff in this magazine that I don't understand because there's German. It's a German article, and I'm not gonna try to translate this.
I'll have to take a picture for the gram and the Facebook to show all you people out there.
I feel like I've accomplished so much. It's like I own a prop of this movie, even though it's not a prop of this movie, and I own this book about Sting in the Amazon.
Only Scary Perry.
So it's the musician, guys. It's the musician Sting.
Correct. Only Scary Perry, though, would track down a random magazine in the background of a movie and purchase it to have it.
They had a lot of close-ups on them to try to make it prevalent.
We'll have to try and, if they're ever at some conventions or something, try and get that signed by like Scott Spiegel, Sam Raimi, Ted Raimi, and Bruce Campbell.
And Sting eventually, too.
And Sting. Maybe Estevez, Renee Estevez.
I'm going to want to talk to Scott. I want to like email Scott Spiegel.
I can't remember the other person.
Scott Spiegel and ask him why was the German magazine in the movie, because they filmed it at a California supermarket at night. I just don't understand unless they planted it there. And I can't find it. I mean, there's still more that Perry has to hunt for.
Right.
Scary Perry needs to hunt. All right.
Was there anything in Chud you needed to track down?
No.
Daniel Stern's mustache.
I don't. Is there any Soup Kitchen? I don't know. Nothing. That movie is. Well, go listen to the episode.
The little truck the kid was playing with.
No, I don't even want that. That movie was something. I don't even want pictures of hobos underground.
Oh boy. There's your mid-take hot cake there. That should have been with the other hot cakes, but we forgot about, so probably need to script these episodes out a little bit better.
Yeah.
Oh well.
We're
having fun.
Hodgepodge, Modge Posh.
This is what you get for low-budget people. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, we just had the Laurie Michael Myers house scene, so we cut to Loomis with, I don't know if they say his name in this scene, but it says it in the credits. It's Dr. Wynn, and Dr. Wynn plays a big part in the Thorn trilogy, parts 4, 5, and 6. More so 5 and 6. Even though you don't even know he's in 5 technically, but part 6, even though he's kind of just a throwaway character here, and he's only in this one scene. And Loomis is complaining about Myers' escape, and he's like, I told them! And then we cut back to Laurie, and she's in school during, I'm not sure what class it is, but maybe English or something. I think they're talking about some author's view of fate and whatnot. But she looks out the window, and she's the station wagon that Michael stole from Dr. Loomis and the nurse, with Michael standing behind it. I didn't mention this the first time, but I think it's odd that for an official state vehicle, they're using a station wagon, but neither here nor there. You know, it works. It's kind of iconic. So she looks away, you know, back towards paying attention to class, and then she looks back, and the car's gone. Michael's gone. Very famous scene, and they kind of do a play on it in Halloween 2018.
Also, in this, he has his coveralls on and his mask.
He has his coveralls and mask.
And
you don't really know how he got him yet, and I'm not even sure how he would have the mask yet. It doesn't quite make sense, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'll overlook it. And then the teacher asks her a question, and she just answers it like that, without missing a beat there, because she's kind of like the bookworm of the group. So school lets out, at least elementary school, because we're on Tommy right now. And we got to see some kids teasing Tommy as he's carrying a pumpkin that the boogeyman is going to get him. The boogeyman's going to get you.
This pumpkin was ginormous. This Tommy has superheroes, right?
Well, you down on the strength of Paul Rudd there?
No, of course not.
I mean, this is obviously his childhood Paul Rudd, but Paul Rudd would later play Tommy Doyle. More on that in a moment. They end up tripping him, and he drops his pumpkin, and he smashes it. So you might say it's a smashing pumpkin.
Did it?
Pun definitely intended there. Totally. And the bullies kind of, laugh, and then they run off, and as they're running off, Michael grabs one of them, and this kid just has like this fucking oh shit look on his face, and you just know that he fucking just shit his drawers there, and he just fucking like runs off. off. Michael lets him go and he runs off. So, and then cue the Halloween theme here. This is a cool shot. We're following Tommy on the other side of the fence in the background, as in the foreground, Michael, which you're not seeing his face, you kind of just see his body. They kind of do a lot of that where they don't show Michael in his entirety all the time. And he's walking, he's kind of following Tommy on the other side of the fence in the foreground. Very cool shot. And so eventually Myers gets in a car to continue following him as Tommy's walking through the yards and whatnot. Eventually he just kind of drives off a different way as I think Tommy turns down a street, or maybe Myers turns down a different street. One of them turns and then the following stops. Before moving on though, I gotta ask, so who's the cooler Tommy from slasher franchises? Tommy Doyle or Tommy Jarvis? Maybe this is a question better saved for Friday the 13th series review, but...
Well...
So, who did you say played little Tommy in this one? Andrews? Brian Andrews?
Yeah, that was it.
Which, I don't know what he's been in since, but...
Not much.
Compared to young Tommy Jarvis, who is played by none other than the Feldster, Corey Feldman. So I think we got a one-up on him there. But then when you get to adult Tommy Doyle, played by Paul Rudd, who has this weird, creepy performance of him, which we'll talk about that several Octobers from now when we finally get to part 6. Unfortunately, Paul Rudd could not reprise his role in Halloween Kills that's coming out soon. I'm not sure the exact release date of that movie, but might be out by the time this podcast releases, because he was already committed to Ghostbusters, and, you know, I'm sure he's not too broken up over it. He's got that Ghostbusters money coming his way. Yeah. I don't know who they have playing oldish, old man Tommy Doyle. I mean, he's not like super old. He's not as old as Jamie Lee now, but you know, he's older. Got to be like 50s technically if we're going by the Halloween. Well, 78, he's a kid. We're 50 years later almost. A little more than 50 years. We're 53 years later, so
the guy that
he'd be like 58.
Will Patton played him?
58, 59.
No, it was, speaking of an 80s actor, it's Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh yeah, Anthony Michael Hall is he's playing Tommy Doyle, right?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And that would probably put him at
probably puts him at the proper age.
Good age, yeah.
Yeah.
Good age.
Matching it up.
Age, yeah.
And then of course
was he in the
now in between for Tommy Jarvis in part 5, A New Beginning, I forget who played him, but played him as the like early 20s, mid 20s, you know, loner, halfway house kind of guy, which is weird why a 20-year-old still in that type of system, being a legal adult, but neither here nor there. And then, of course, in part 6, Jason Liz, he's played by Tom Matthews of, obviously, from Return of the Living Dead, parts 1 and part 2. I feel like, as much as Paul Rudd's pretty good, I feel like the edge goes to Tommy Jarvis overall.
I concur with you.
Back to Halloween now. We cut to Loomis at a crossroads. I believe there's some railroad tracks, too, in the background, too. And he's at a phone booth. We're 3 for 3 on the International House of Horror podcast with phone booths and films.
Oh, boy.
Will we go 4 for 4? I'm not sure.
Certainly possible.
So he's calling the sheriff of Haddonfield to warn him. After he's done talking to him, because he's trying to warn him about Michael, he thinks that's where he's going to go. He finds an abandoned truck, and there's one of those patient smocks lying around, and we cue the music, and he finds the matchbook cover, because there's a matchbook cover from the nurse at the beginning that it pans on, which we kind of grazed over. That was in the car at the beginning, so that's the cue that, you know, that Michael was here. So we got kill number 2, truck driver dead in the tall grass. And I think we'll take a brief break here so we can do another shameless plug for you guys. And we're back. So, and with this kill, you know, being in the tall grass, I'm not 100% sure Michael Myers killed this guy. I mean, he was in the tall grass. He might have gotten attacked by a random Pokemon. So Michael took this guy's coveralls, and we cut back to the high school now. Lori's leaving school with Linda, played by PJ Souls, and Linda is complaining about everything she has to do tomorrow. And I concur. I still got a little bit of editing to do, and let me tell you, I got some crunch time, so I totally understand where Linda's coming from here.
Gotta get some stuff to do too.
Got a little more editing to do for a podcast I got put out on Tuesday, but I'm getting there. It'll totally be done by then, I promise. And then so Annie, played by Nancy Loomis, no relation to Sam Loomis, of course. I do like that coincidence that there's a person named Loomis in this film. And didn't talk about Nancy Loomis too much, mention her hero bit, but she starred in several other John Carpenter films. She's in The Fog with Jamie Lee again, and she plays the assistant to the mayor, played by Janet Leigh.
This part, I just want to bring up some of the scenery, because this movie wasn't really shot in Illinois.
Oh, yes.
Haddonfield is not a real place.
Right.
This movie is shot in California, and so you can see fake leaves on the ground because it's actually not even
they had
shot
to
in
strew
the fall.
leaves around. Right.
It's shot in the summer.
Right, and they're still green on all the trees.
And there's some palm trees you can see.
Right. They try their best to hide it, but, you know.
And I heard it was, there's 2 pumpkins in the movie. I heard it was really hard for them to find them.
Right, because they're probably not in
I
season.
can only imagine, like assistants.
Right,
just
because when they're not ripe, I think they're like green technically. They haven't turned orange yet, so.
Yeah. They're driving all over California or whatnot looking for these pumpkins.
Right, maybe they had to get imported. Who knows? And oh yeah, Nancy Loomis was also in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. She's harder to recognize in this, but she plays Tom Atkins' ex-wife.
That's a good one.
Can't wait to talk about that one, but you'll have to wait till next year. So yeah, so they're leaving school. Annie catches up with them. There's some fun dialogue here. So Paul dragged Annie into the boys' locker room, and they joke that it's uncharted territory. But I think Linda says that's totally been charted. But Paul is grounded and can't come over. And Linda says the only reason she babysits is to have a place to. And then Lori says, shit. And Annie says, I have a place for that. And Lori forgot her chemistry book. And this brings up the infamous, as I call it, the book scene. So now in this scene, you're supposed to be focusing on the car and Cumming and Michael. And the conversation is just supposed to be background stuff. You're not even supposed to be paying attention to it. And the first time I ever was made aware of this stuff was by James Rolfe from Cinemassacre, his reviews of the series, talking about the background noise. You can't unhear it once you hear it. Linda talking about books. And she's like, oh, I forget all my books. I forget my math book, my geometry book, my science book, my history book. Who needs books anyways? And it's just something along those lines. And once you hear it and know that it's there, you can't unfocus from it. And it's a great scene because it's just supposed to be background noise, and you're just focusing on this car coming by and just, the driver looking at and watching creepily. But now I can't unsee it. And I'm sorry if for those of you who never paid attention to Linda's random ramblings about books, but I apologize now if that's forever going to be something you notice when you watch that scene from now on, but can't unsee it or unhear it too. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, I did not.
You did not notice.
I was
the
one of the
books?
ones.
Now next time you watch it,
yeah.
Now you're gonna be like, this motherfucker, this bitch is talking about her books and I can't stop focusing on it. But once the car comes by, Linda thinks it's some guy named Devin Graham. And Annie yells at the guy as he drives by. It's like, hey jerk, speed kills. And the car stops for a moment and drives off. And then Lori tells her, it's like, one day you're gonna get us in deep trouble. Bit of foreshadowing, maybe? Mm-hmm. Totally. So they're talking about their plans for tonight. Laura's babysitting Tommy Doyle, and Annie is watching The Wallace Girl, one being Tommy Doyle, and then little Lindsay Wallace. And I'm like, now, I forget what he actually does on the film. He's in the credits, but I know he's a big name in this. I forget what exactly he does for the film, but he's done stuff for the franchise throughout, and for various of the films, I believe, a guy named Tommy Wallace. And I wonder if Tommy Doyle, they took his first name for that character, and then Lindsay Wallace, and they took his last name for that character. I wonder if that's a bit of a coincidence, or if it's something like they cleverly worked in.
I don't know.
Is it coincidence like Bert and Ernie in Return of the Living Dead? Which was a coincidence. I don't think they intended to reference Sesame Street. Or is it intentional like Night of the Creeps with the Detectives Raimi and Romero and Hooper and whatnot, with all the reference to horror directors?
I did not come across that, so.
If any of you listen and know, feel free to let us know on my social media pages. You can find me as the Mad Pancaker pretty much everywhere. But back on track here. Linda leaves because she arrives at her house, so Lori and Annie keep walking because they still got a little bit of a ways to go. And so Lori sees Michael, and he ducks behind some bushes. He's standing there, and then he ducks behind some bushes. And Lori says that it was the guy from the car. But Annie goes up and looks, and no one is there. And Annie jokes because being a bit bookish and, like a bookworm, she's kind of like I don't want to say like the plain girl, because Jamie Lee definitely has a body on her. She's like, she's kind of like the plain girl, And Annie jokes that she scared another one away, that she's like too shy for her own good and scares away guys. Mm-hmm. And she says that guys think I'm too smart, reinforcing the bookish thing. So Annie arrives at home. So now it's just Lori walking home, and she bumps into Mr. Brackett, who's the sheriff of Haddonfield and Annie's father. He says the memorable line that, it's Halloween. I guess everyone is entitled to one good scare, huh? Which I think they use in in some of the other films. I'm not 100% sure, but it's a very iconic line. I always remember that line. Now Lori, she continues walking home. We see some trick-or-treaters. And as she's watching, she's like, well, kiddo, I thought you outgrew superstition. Just makes me remember when, and I think this was probably even before our time, but when trick-or-treat was actually like a fucking all-day thing, and you just fucking went around like all fucking day, like, and would trick-or-treat. Because this is the middle of the daytime. Like for us, like trick-or-treat is usually like 6 to 8 o'clock.
Yeah, whatever you got.
And this is clearly well before
remember
6.
being long as a child, but it could only been in that
Childhood
3
memory
hours.
where time goes slower when you're a kid for some reason,
Yeah.
type deal. But I think back in the day it was just like fucking all day, and I'm
I
like,
always remember it at night, not in the daytime.
yeah, I think that was a little before our time. And it could just be for the film, but I'm like, bullshit. I'm like, fuck this 2-hour trick-or-treat shit. I want trick-or-treat all day, damn it. I know I'm too old for trick-or-treating now, but damn it.
But are you?
No, maybe. Did I outgrow trick-or-treat and superstition?
You put a mask on, nobody knows who you are.
Like Michael?
You could be like Mike. Be like
So,
Mike.
not quite the Michael I think they're referencing there, but... So Lori arrives at home, and she looks out her bedroom window, and she sees the shape. The shape being kind of what Michael is credited as in the credits and whatnot.
Yep.
Kind of a nickname for him. We cut back to Lori, and then it cuts back to outside the window, and just like with the classroom, he's gone. Now, how the hell did this guy disappear without her seeing? Because she never looks away. When it sure shows her looking, she's looking in the same direction on the camera, and then it cuts away to, and she's, to her, what she's looking at out the window, and then it cuts back to her, and then it cuts back to him, and he's gone, and then it cuts back to her, and she's got like this concerned look on his face. I'm like, what the fuck? Is this guy like Houdini and can disappear or some shit?
Or
I
is it
think that's
maybe
some bullshit there.
Lori is losing her shit
Maybe.
because she puts a lot on her plate.
Totally.
Yeah, but yeah, he just
So then the phone call, she gets a phone call and she answers and she just hears chewing. So she hangs up thinking it's a prank. And then the phone rings again and she picks up and it's Annie and she's like, and she had her mouth full and they're talking about her famous obscene chewing or some nonsense like that.
kind of odd, but yeah.
Oh, I do love the dialogue. I do like these characters. And again, another good example of these characters don't need super fleshed out to like them.
Yeah.
Kind of like Intruder. So Annie's going to be picking up Lori later on. So Lori leaves with the pumpkin. The totally awesome score kicks in again. And she stops and she's looking at several trick-or-treaters on her way. And then Annie pulls up in the car and she gets in. And we cut back to Loomis, who has arrived in Haddonfield now. And they're at the cemetery with the caretaker. And to look at Judith Myers' grave. This caretaker's telling this story about it like another murder that happened with this guy. And Loomis just doesn't give two shits. He's not like paying attention. He is super focused on the task at hand. And they get to a headstone that is missing. And they figure out whose it is as he's looking at the plot list and like the map of the plots. And he's like, oh, it's Judith Myers. And then Loomis remarks, he came home.
You know how heavy a tombstone is?
Dude, fucking Michael Myers.
I don't understand.
He's fucking totally
I know.
hardcore.
It's just crazy. The lifting in this movie. There's superpowers everywhere. Pumpkins and tombstones.
Totally. So we cut back to Laura and Annie, and they're smoking pot in the car. And they're talking about the guy in Mr. Riddle's backyard. That was where they found where Michael ducked behind the bushes. And Annie's joking that it was probably Mr. Riddle. Annie says that he's 87. And Laura's like, he can still watch. And Annie's like, that's about all he can do. But they don't notice, and this is a lot of the greatness of the filming here, is that they don't notice, like, the station wagon pulls in behind them and follows. There's a lot of great, subtle scenes like this with a car. And Annie's plans is that she's going to have little Lindsay Wallace, they're going to watch 6 straight hours of horror films from Dr. Demento. Are you familiar with Dr. Demento?
I'm not.
So he was kind of a big deal back in the day. I don't know if you can pull up some information about him, but
I don't know. I could share it.
he was more of a radio personality, though.
If I could spell
And I'll probably just cut this out if I'm wrong, but I think he kind of helped start Weird Al's career.
American radio broadcaster and record collector specializing in novelty songs, comedy, and strange or unusual recordings dating from the early days of phonograph records to the present.
I believe this is the same Dr. Demento. I don't see why it wouldn't
He
be.
is still alive. He is going strong at 80 years old.
Wow, I didn't realize he was still that young. Kind of figured he'd be even older, but good for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so the song playing playing in their car, though, is Seasons Don't Fear the Reaper.
Little Bach.
Yep, Blue Oyster Cult there. Feel like it's appropriate for what's about to happen here.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell rock.
All right, simmer down over there, Christopher Walken. They pull up and there's an alarm going off at a store. Annie's dad is there, the sheriff. So they're like, shit, we gotta get rid of this pot. And then Michael just kind of stops following. He's still there, but he just stops the car. So the girls pull up and they ask what happened. Sheriff Brackett says that someone broke into the hardware store. Probably a bunch of kids. All they took was a couple of Halloween masks, some rope, and a couple of knives. And, you know, he's shouting over the alarm and whatnot. And Annie's just kind of like, what? And then the alarm finally stops and he says something. And then Annie's like, he shouts too, just as, because, you know, he's shouting just as the alarm shuts off, which is kind of funny. So the girls drive away and Loomis shows up and introduces himself. So Loomis waits there because the sheriff's got to wrap up some stuff in the hardware store. So he's waiting to talk to the sheriff. And then you see Michael, you see the station wagon in the background just kind of drive by. There's no music, it just happens, which is very subtle.
I like that.
And it's great because, you know, he's right under his nose, right next to him, and he can't see him. So totally brilliant there. So then we cut back to the girls because they drove off, and they're talking about the dance tomorrow. It's coming up like, I think, is it Homecoming? It might be Homecoming or something like that.
Yeah.
There's a dance coming up either way. I'm not sure if it's tomorrow. And she's teasing her about asking someone out to the dance. They're talking about who, and Lori lets loose that she would rather go out with Ben Tramer. And Annie teases her about it, but this begins the tragic tale of Ben Tramer. I don't know, it might be a little too soon to talk about Ben Tramer, but it just breaks me up. But Perry has no idea who the fuck I'm talking about, so this is great.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But don't worry, when we get to the sequel, you know what we're talking about. Anyways, back on task here. Girls are being followed by Michael's car again, and cue that totally rockin' score. And now a little bit of time has come, so now it's nighttime. Andy drops off Lori, and we got POV shot of Michael in the car, and he gets out and watches Annie go into the Wallace's house. She's still watching, and the Wallaces come out and leave, and we're back at Sheriff and Loomis. They're checking out the Myers place.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike Chud, this film doesn't cut around without a reason, or every fucking 2 seconds. God, can't stop talking about Chud. And the sheriff says every kid in Hatfield thinks it's haunted, and Loomis comments, they may be right. Loomis, he's totally a downer here. He's very somber because he understands what's kind of going on here. They go inside and they find the remains of a dog, and it's still warm, and Loomis postures that he must have gotten hungry. Sheriff Brackett says, a man wouldn't do that. And Loomis is like, this is no man. And they go upstairs, and they go into the sister's bedroom where the crime happened. As they're remarking about this, a gutter comes down and smashes the window. We got a jump scare here. And Loomis pulls out a gun, and like he's like ready to shoot, and like sheriff just kind of looks at him. He's like, I got a permit for that if you need to see it. And the sheriff asks him, he's scared, and he's like, yes, I'm very scared. When he met Michael 15 years ago, when he was 6 years old, no emotion, reason, etc. He had the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. He spent 8 years trying to reach him, and another 7 trying to keep him locked up, purely and simply evil. So they plan a stakeout, so they're going to stake out the Myers house. And he tells the sheriff not to warn people because it'll just be hysteria, that they'll see him everywhere when they don't. Yeah, that's about it. He just says he'll see them everywhere. I don't have the exact line. Every street, every corner, something like that. So we cut back to Lori babysitting Tommy. She's reading him King Arthur. And he's bored and he wants her to read her his comics that he's got stashed under the sofa instead. So Tommy, he asks about the boogeyman. And you know, Lori says, there's no such thing as the boogeyman. Boogeyman, big recurring theme in this. So the phone rings, it's Annie, and she's making some popcorn. And Lester, the family dog, is barking at her at the Wallaces. You know, she remarks that this dog doesn't like him, so the dog eventually leaves, goes out through like the doggy door outside. Annie has hooked up Lori with a date to Homecoming. It is Homecoming, I got it in my notes here. With Ben Tramer.
Too soon.
Poor Ben. Poor Ben. So Tommy looks out the window and he sees Michael watching him across the street. So he tells Lori the boogeyman's out there, but there's no one there when she looks. Michael's teleporting abilities here. Mm-hmm. Totally amazing teleporting abilities. We cut to Annie on the phone and Michael's watching her through the doors. And she ends up spilling button on her shirt. She tells Lori, I gotta go, and she hangs up. So she takes off her shirt and her pants. Hey-o!
Hey now.
And she grabs a button-up shirt out of the closet. it. And all meanwhile, Michael's watching. But all we see is her backside. It's like, damn, no tits. We don't get to see Nancy Loomis's tits here. Michael walks away. A hanging plant gets knocked down and falls, and the pot breaks. So this is one of my 3 fan theories about this film. And I'm guessing I'm not the only one that has come up with these, but I'm not one of those guys that goes looking for deep into like discussion boards and YouTube videos looking for fan theories. Sometimes I'll watch some of that stuff, but I'm not like super into it. But I came up with these all on my own, and I wonder if other people have. So if you've noticed this stuff, let me know on social media and whatnot. But my first fan theory is that all Michael Myers wants is just to see some titties. So you cut back to the first murder of his sister. You know, he walks in on her, yeah, some titties, and she's like, Michael, and then she covers up, and he's like, oh no, bitch, I want them titties, and he just starts stabbing her, because, you know, that's how, once he covers up the titties, you know, that's when he fucking freaks out. Then you cut to here, while he's watching her, and, you know, he's got a boner, it's like, oh yeah. Just turn around, move the towel. Family Guy reference there.
What?
And when she puts on the shirt, now he's all pissed off, so that's why he knocks the fucking plant down.
Why did he kill the truck guy?
Well, you know, he just liked the cut of his swag there, you know.
Okay. All right.
So Annie looks, but Michael's gone.
Why did he kill the dog?
And he's back to looking at her from the other window. We'll get to that.
All right.
So Lester starts barking at him.
Well, according to your theory.
Well, Lester's cock blocking Michael Myers here. That's why.
Okay.
That's why he's got to
Talking
kill
about
the
this
dog.
about the dead dog in his.
Well, he's hungry.
Maybe his home. Okay, he's hungry. All right.
Maybe. Well, you didn't see what led up to that dog.
But he's
being
hungry
killed.
for boobs.
You didn't see what led up to that dog being killed. Maybe he's like watching some MILF across the street, and this dog came up, started barking. He's like, motherfucking dog's always cock blocking me.
You got some weird theories, my friend.
So Annie says,
and I'm the scary one.
well, trust me, it'll come up some more. So we got Annie, and she's like, Lindsay, Lester's barking again, like she wants the kid to tell the dog to shut up. So, and Lindsay just keeps ignoring her because she's engrossed with the movie she's watching. So the barking finally stops, and we cut to Michael strangling the dog. I think there's some Stinger music going on here. I don't have it in my notes, but I remember from my memory, I think there's Stinger. Does this count as a kill? And does the other dog dying count as a kill? Or are dogs and human kills separate here? I didn't count it towards the kill count, but...
Did he kill this dog?
Yeah, he fucking straight up strangles this dog.
I don't have this in my kill count. I have a dog, but this was...
No, this is another dog other than the one that he was eating. He strangles their family dog, the Wallace's dog,
My
Lester.
kill count is off, because I was counting dogs. So I guess we will not count them.
Well, I was not counting the dogs. But I did put a question like, does this count? Like, what's our official kill count matter for this? We cut to the TV, and Howard Hawks' The Thing from Another World is on TV. More commonly just referred to simply as a thing. Nobody really calls it The Thing from Another World, but that's the full title, technically. And this is a favorite of John Carpenter's, big reason why he includes it in the film. And eventually he would go on to remake The Thing.
No way.
And his remake is also a classic.
With
The
Kurt Russell?
original, yes, with Kurt Russell.
No way.
And with Wilford Brimley.
Really? The diabetes guy?
Does he die of diabetes in it?
Yeah, does he?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
So Lori and Tommy, they're discussing their plans for the night. We're going to carve the jack-o'-lantern. When are we going to carve the jack-o'-lantern? After the movie. Although I think it's strange they're carving the jack-o'-lantern on Halloween night as opposed to before Halloween. That's usually when you carve them, but...
Well, you're saying it's
usually have it ready.
All day long affair. I don't know.
Yeah, and so like, why would you do it on Halloween as opposed to before Halloween so people can enjoy the work? I mean, I'm sure it's just for the fun of carving a jack-o'-lantern, but still. And he asked, what about the boogeyman? And she's like, there's no such thing. Because they're arguing about man outside, there's nobody outside. And with that, she puts his concerns at ease. We cut back to Annie, and she walks out to the laundry shed? Question mark? I'm like, they have a separate shed outside for just the laundry room and stuff?
I'm like, these people are rich as hell.
No, it's California.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, no, it's not. It's Illinois.
Oh, yeah. True. Totally.
And then also, where do these parents go of these Tommy?
I think they were just going out like date night or for dinner or something. Who knows? Bit strange for Halloween, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, they probably don't want to deal with handing out candy and shit.
Who knows? Maybe they're going out of town for vacation or something.
Probably pay their babysitters well. They're like, we don't want to hand out candy and shit. Yeah.
So yeah, she walks out to the laundry shed because she needs to wash her pants because her pants got the butter on her. She found a shirt, but hard to substitute pants. So Michael's by the door. He's by the door as it slowly opens. When she comes back and goes and looks out the door, there's no one there, of course. And then as she's fiddling with the laundry and whatnot, the door slams shut and she's locked in. And she's yelling for Lindsay. But of course, like I said, she's enthralled with the thing. And then the phone's ringing, and Annie's trying to climb out through this side window here. But there's like a shelf in the way.
When I saw this, I'm like, this is for sure where she's going to die. And then to go back to your theory, he has prime opportunity to do what he wants.
Well, yeah, but I mean, John Carpenter faked you out.
I thought, well, yeah, besides the theory.
Totally.
Yeah, but besides the theory, though, yeah, I thought she was going to die here. Anyways, good.
Lindsay answers the phone, and it's Paul, her boyfriend. Paul, never actually in the movie, just on phone as a voice. And she's like, one moment she goes to get Annie, and she finds her stuck. And he gets her unstuck. And she's like, promise me you won't tell anyone. And she immediately runs back and grabs the phone and tells Paul, and what a little bitch Lindsay Wallace is. Hope she dies in Halloween Kills. They're going to hook up because his parents are gone. So because he's grounded, but his parents are gone, so free reign there, you know. Whoop. Mm-hmm. So it pans by the door while she's on the phone, and Michael's standing there, and we get the stinger music. And then it pans away, and it pans back, and he's gone. Another similar scene to some of the other disappearing scenes he's done. So she's going to go pick up Paul. So she sticks Lindsay with Lori and Tommy. So they walk past the station wagon while she's bringing the kids over. And Michael stands up and we get a brief stinger. And this is different than the other ones, but it's still totally awesome. It's a slightly different stinger because there's the one that's just like the solid meow, and then there's the other one that's like the doo-doo-doo. I forget which one this is. I didn't write it down.
Did you
and we got
spell it out phonetically?
Later on I do.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, Michael stands up and we got the breathing. I love how there's a lot of use of the breathing in this with him breathing in the mask, and I think it's totally awesome. Mm-hmm. So Lori wants Annie to cancel the date with Ben Tramer. Annie tells her that she can't, and I just feel like I'm all choked up over this, but Ben Tramer has a date with Destiny. Anyways, might consider calling him tomorrow if she watches Lindsay. So like I said, she's getting stuck babysitting 2 kids now. Annie goes to the car back at the Wallace place, and it's locked. So she goes inside to get her keys, and you know, she's singing some song about Paul. Paul, I love you, I need you, something along those lines. Now we go back to the car, and the door, she just goes and opens it up. It's unlocked now. Suspicious. When she's in the car, she notices that the windows are all steamed up, which is very weird. And now we got kill number 3. So Annie gets grabbed from the back seat, and she's being choked, and while Michael's like choking her and holding her in place and she's struggling, he slits her throat with the knife. She just slides on down and slumps over and falls on the horn, and the horn starts going honk the whole time. Totally annoying, but you know. Funny thing though about this scene is there is no blood though. Now here's the thing where it's low budget, and obviously they cut the corner having like some sort of prosthetic cuttable thing there to slice open and have blood come out just for the simplicity of the scene. It doesn't really need it, but it's one of those things, well, there should be blood, so a little bit of an error there. But if you want to talk about Chud having a low budget, I know you think it was a lot, but I mean, I compared it, so Back to the Future 1 year later had a $19 million budget, which blows away the 1.2 whatever of Chud. And then Back to the Future 2 a few years later had like a 40 million, so 1.2 was not that big back then. But compared to this film in 78, this film had a budget of $200,000 if I remember correctly.
Oh, actually, if you want to get the numbers, the budget was between 300 and 325,000.
325. I always heard 200. Maybe that was what Donald Pleasance got. I can't remember. I may get the numbers are mixed up. Maybe that was the budget for filming, and then after distribution and whatnot, you know, because there's additional fees. A lot of the marketing fees don't get lumped into that initial budget sum. Because if a movie barely ekes out more than a little bit of its budget, it's actually a loss, because a lot of times the marketing is separate from the budget.
The average of whatever you don't make this complicated pancake.
No, I was just explaining though, like people are like, oh, well, this movie made 120 million on 100 million, so at least it made 20 million. No, that movie lost money because marketing jacked it up more than 100 million.
I guess.
But people think that, you know.
I get where you're going down.
Yeah, totally. Back on track here. So we're back with Tommy and Lindsay. Tommy hides behind the curtain and he calls out creepily to Lindsay, but while he's doing that, he turns around and looks out the window and he sees Michael carrying Annie inside, because Lindsay's kind of looking around for him and she's backing up, and then he backs up and he backs into her and they scream. It's like, ah! And the boogeyman's outside. You know, Lori looks, of course, and she's like, there's no one outside, and she threatens him with bedtime. Ooh, Tommy, you better straighten up or else you're gonna get bedtime. And he's just like, nobody believes me. Lindsay says, I believe you, Tommy. I believe you too, Tommy. I believe you too. Anyways, they're still watching the thing on TV, and back at the Myers house, some kids come up and dare one of the kids to go in. This kid's name is Lonnie, and I'm just like, what kind of a name is Lonnie? And even better, the kid's gonna be in Halloween Kills. I don't know if it's the original actor, but the character's gonna be in it.
Oh boy.
But Loomis is just like, hey, Lonnie, get your ass away from there. And then the kids run off all scared, and he just looks so fucking proud of himself.
I was so like, this is a really funny scene to me because usually
Totally.
he's so serious, and then it's like he just seems like
Yeah, he's
enlightened.
totally proud of himself. But the sheriff comes up to behind him and jump scares Loomis. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare on Halloween, huh?
Mhm.
This is his second. I guess you're just entitled to one. You can get more than one. He says there's nothing going on around town. Just, kids playing pranks, getting high. Parking. I'm glad parking. Yeah, parking. Come on, Marty. Or does she say Marty or Cowan in that scene? I can't remember.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Marty. Everybody park. This is my first time
Hey.
parking.
All right.
I've never parked before.
Okay.
I'm glad that's still a term.
I,
Wait, so the sheriff thinks this is all for nothing. We get another famous line from this. Death has come to your little town, Sheriff. That's just classic Loomis there. Totally great performance from Donald Pleasance. Love Donald Pleasance in this. And the sheriff's like,
would you say he's pleasant?
oh, he's more than pleasant.
Okay.
The sheriff says, if you're right, damn you for letting him go. So now we cut back and Linda and Bob show up at the Wallaces. They go inside the Wallace's house. I don't know if this is the part where she's like, I hope this is the movie I'm thinking of. I didn't write down my notes. It's like, first I'll rip off your clothes, and then first I'll rip off your clothes, and then we'll rip off Annie's clothes, or something like that.
Yeah.
And
No, he
she's
said
just like,
that.
totally.
Bob said that, and I had to do a double take and rewind. I'm like, what the fuck did he say? And then I'm like, this guy is the biggest fucking pervert ever. When he said
Totally.
this, and I have it written down, the pervert Bob.
Bob's a horn dog. So they go inside the Wallaces, and it's totally dark inside. There's no Annie or Lindsay. So they just start making out, and it pans out, and Michael's watching, because he's got to see those titties. So cut back to Lori, and the jack-o'-lantern's all done. Nice looking jack-o'-lantern, if I say so myself. And Lori sees Linda and Bob's band, and she's like, everyone's having a good time tonight, I take it. She gets a phone call, and it's Linda calling, ask where Annie is, because she's totally not here. And Lori tells her to have a good time, and she's like, we definitely will. I feel like she should have said, should have been totally, but Linda and Bob go upstairs for some sexy time, and there are beer cans lying around the bedroom. Now, is this a beer brand beer? Did they pick this up at the Walnut Lake Market?
I do not know.
I think it might just be Budweiser or something, but
I have something
I still
written
love
down
those.
here. I'm trying to figure it out.
That's your next thing.
You might have to clip this out. I just have dragging beer cans. Dragging beer cans.
Dragging beer cans?
I don't know what my notes are. It's just really weird.
They were dragging beer cans?
So I might have find that odd. Something was dragging beer cans.
I don't know.
That's the word dragging.
Maybe he was holding the six pack like this in his other hand and like carrying it behind him, but I don't know if he was dragging it.
All right.
I did not
You can cut that out, but
Well.
go ahead.
We'll leave it in, maybe stir up some conversation on the social medias.
All right, cool. Tell me about the beer cans, people.
I'm surprised you haven't found one of those generic beer can beers from Intruder. Is that your next goal? Next thing you need to find?
I
A
don't know
generic
if it's
beer?
actually from Intruder because you'd just buy it anyway.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You gotta find the generic beer.
I don't want it. I got my Sting magazine
All
and I
right.
got my
I'm
Pepsi.
just saying,
I'm
I'd
fine, okay?
Totally love to have the generic beer brand beer can. So the phone rings and they take it off the hook, and it's back to lovemaking. Because boning is always more important than anything, even saving the world. Right, Tom Atkins?
My hero.
Man, if this was not a low budget podcast, I'd have a soundboard here and I'd just put in like Tom Atkins saying like thrill me or something. Man, I totally need like a soundboard and need to get some sound effects for this, but maybe in time.
Share, guys, share around, share everywhere.
Yeah, support us, and don't have a Patreon yet, but I'll get it set up sooner or later, so you can contribute to the podcast, but you can support directly on Anchor. I was going to save some of this plug for later, but I'll throw it in now, and I'll remind you later. So the shadow of the shape walks by, and we get some more Stinger music, and we got some titties.
Hello. Not as good as Michael's sisters, but titties.
I think this is a little bit after the lovemaking, and they're lying in bed there, and having a smoke afterwards. Ah, the 70s, when you could still smoke on film. Just like the 80s. They're having a conversation about who's going to get who a beer. He's like, is that what we say? Yeah. So she cons him into going to get them some beers, and he says, I'll be right back. And like Randy would say in Scream, it's one line you never want to say in a horror film. And Bob's fate is sealed from here.
Yeah, he's a pervert.
So Bob goes down, he opens the fridge, grabs some beers, closes the fridge, hears a door creak open. He goes to investigate, and we hear the breathing. And he goes to open the closet, and we got the stinger. And Michael grabs Bob and starts choking him. And he lifts him off the fucking ground. And we got kill number 4. He impales Bob with a kitchen knife, and he's pinned to the cupboard there. And then Michael does something that he does throughout the series now. I think this is the only time he does this. Afterwards, he's looking at Bob, and he does this sideways head tilt both ways. Kind of becomes like a trademark move of his.
It was cool.
So Michael goes upstairs. Before going back upstairs, though, and a lot of people talk about this, like, there's no way that knife could hold up his body. Like, even if it stabbed through him, sooner or later, he's gonna, like, slide, it's gonna loosen off from the weight of his body or something, you know?
More believable than the meat hook and Intruder.
No, because that's all you have to do is lift somebody up, and then and then you put him on the hook.
That guy couldn't, Bob, he couldn't lift him up.
No, Danny Hicks was pretty strong. That was another thing.
What was the name of the movie? I don't know.
Bill.
Bill. It's Bob Bill.
Yeah, played by Danny Hicks.
Bill he is not Michael Myers' strength. All right, anyways. Go ahead.
Michael goes upstairs, and he's covered in a bedsheet like a ghost, with eyes holes cut out, and he's wearing Bob's glasses. So then we get to see some Linda's totally awesome titties. He's like, see anything you like? On this DVD, though, I mean, you do see them some more here, but in like the straightaway shot, the cut of the film is just like right above her chest, so you don't get to see her when she's standing straight on. You don't see her till she goes and picks up the phone, and she's like, what's the matter? Can I get your ghost, Bob? Oh, someone will be giving up the ghost here in a moment. Totally. And he won't answer her. You just got the breathing going on. And so she turns around and calls Laurie to find about Paul and Annie and where they're at. So she turns her back on Bob. And then we get some of the music here, the kind of like the chase music, the burp, 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 burp.
So you have this written down phonetically?
Sort of. And Michael slowly approaches. So Laurie answers, but as Laurie answers, before Linda can say anything, Michael grabs her with the phone cord, is choking her with the phone cord. And Laurie thinks it's Annie. It's like, oh, first I got your famous chewing and now you're famous moaning. So we got kill number 5. Linda's strangled with the phone cord. I feel like maybe they totally should have used the phone booth. Wait. Oh, I screwed up my own joke here. Oh, she totally should have used the phone booth instead, and then maybe she wouldn't have died. Except for the guy from Chud. He died in his phone booth. Laurie is concerned, and on the other end, Michael picks up, and all she hears is the breathing. And I'm not sure who hangs up first here. I didn't write it down, but Laurie tries to call back, and there's no answer. So she checks on the kids, and they're in bed. And so back at the Myers place, we cut to Loomis, and he turns around, and he sees the station wagon, and the theme starts kicking up, and he's just like, oh shit, he's already here, and he's not in the house. So he kind of investigates, and then he runs off to go looking. And now we cut back to Laurie. She grabs her keys and goes over to the Wallace house. And we got the score playing. Totally amazing. Goes across the street, and she's calling the names, of all her friends and whatnot, and there's no answer. She goes in through the kitchen doors, because I think the front door is locked, and there's no lights. I don't think this is product placement, but I just can't happen but notice this box of Quaker Oats that's sitting there in the kitchen. Laurie's like saying, cut it out, guys. You'll be sorry. This is the part where we got some of the softer piano score, the my apologies if that totally doesn't sound like it, but I tried, people.
Mad Pancake, master composer.
We go back upstairs with Laurie, and she sees a light on in one room, and she opens the door. She finds Annie sprawled out on the bed, dead, with the headstone of Judith Myers against the backboard of the bed. The room's just lit by this glow of the jack-o'-lantern sitting on the end table there. And then she's got some, muffled crying, is doing, and then Bob swings down, and he's hanging upside down from the closet, and she screams. Because, Laurie's a scream queen, Jamie Lee. Oh, hold on here, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So she backs away, the dresser swings open, and she sees Linda inside, and she's totally dead. And she screams again, she runs out of the room and continues with some muffled crying. So she leans against the door frame, and we got this iconic shot because the room is darkly lit. And they use this in a lot of, the covers and, artwork for the film. The room behind her is dark, and Michael's face just slowly starts to appear, and then you get the stinger. He goes to stab Laurie as she steps away from the door frame, but it only glances off her left arm. And this brings me to fan theory number 2.
Oh boy.
If Michael hadn't fucked up his killing formula, Laurie Strode would be dead and this movie would be over right here. Because every murder, other than Judas when Michael was a child, because, he's probably not strong enough at this point to do this, and he caught her off guard too, so it's, Michael's always began by strangling his victim, and either finish strangling them outright, or finish them off by stabbing them with a knife or slitting their throat. His failure was secured the moment he went to knife instead of first going for the chokehold. He would have just grabbed her and fucking choked her right there. Movie's over. She's either getting choked at or getting finished off with that knife.
No iconic franchise.
No, we could still have a franchise. Maybe then we could have our anthology Halloween series, like John Carpenter wanted to do. We get a stinger from that, and she turns around and she falls over the banister and down the stairs to the first floor, landing at the bottom of the staircase. And then so the chase music starts again, the dirt, 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 dirt. Michael walks to the top of the stairs and pauses for a moment as he watches Laurie, and then pursues Laurie, and she tries to flee. She tries the front door, but she can't get it open, which I don't understand because usually locked from the inside, so you could just unlock it. I don't know what's going on there. She tries to go outside through the kitchen door, but it's blocked by a rake. I'm just like, this shifty motherfucker gets around. Like, either that or he fucking planned ahead and it's like, alright, let me set up this fucking rake now and block off this door, and now climb back into the house through my secret entrance, either through a window or some shit like that, or scaling the fucking wall of the house to get to a window or balcony. Michael starts to punch through the kitchen door because she blocks it off with some shit, and he just starts punching through this fucking door, and he's like fucking totally hardcore. He's like fucking Tony Todd punching through the fucking wood in the remake of Night of the Living Dead. Fucking badassery there. As he gets his hand through, he's got enough of room, so he unlocks the door. I don't think she blocked off, she just locked it. He unlocks the door, and as the door opens, he pauses for a moment and then starts his approach towards Laurie. And there's a lot of suspense like that where he pauses there. Perfectly done in this film. So Laurie ends up smashing the glass panel on the door, because Laurie's also totally hardcore as the final girl here. She was able to remove the rake and open the door just in time, and she runs out and screams for help, trips and falls, and she's limping from her fall, and she runs to a neighboring house asking for help, and these people turn on the lights and they look out through the blinds, and then they shut the blinds, turn off the lights, because they probably think it's like a Halloween prank or something. I'm just like, what a bunch of dicks.
Yeah.
She runs back to the Doyle's house, and she's like, jeez, because she lost the keys that she clearly even brought with her, so she's trying to yell for Tommy to let her in, and all the while it cuts back, Michael slowly coming crossing the street from the Wallaces. Laurie, she grabs a potted plant and throws it against the side of the house by the second story window where Tommy's bedroom is, and the lights turn on. And so Tommy comes in, he's all like sleeping, and asks who it is, and he's like, meanwhile, Michael's getting closer, and he says, Tommy, hurry! Tommy finally gets down there and locks the door. Laurie bolts on in and tells him to go upstairs, and she locks the door and turns off the lights. She tries the phone, but it's dead. Pun intended there? Kill number 6? Haha, phone dead? No.
Wow.
Alright, we'll skip past that. Totally bad joke. Alright, notices that there's a breeze coming from the window. Is it broken or open? Either way, it looks like Michael Myers is already inside. And then the breathing starts. So she's looking and she ends up crouching by the couch and grabs a big knitting needle from a sewing bag that's on the floor. We got the stinger as Michael approaches from behind the couch all of a sudden, and he goes for the stab and hits the cushion. I'm like, Michael, gotta lead with the chokehold, man. Come on. So she stabs him in the neck with the sewing needle, and he backs away, staggers back, and pulls out the needle, and then just falls to the floor. Laurie peeks over the couch and holding Michael's knife that he dropped, and Michael's just lying there. Now, she thinks he's dead, but I'm just looking at this guy. I'm like, well, this stunt guy is clearly still breathing here. Like, I could see his lungs physically inflating. I'm like, come on, Laurie, you gotta go for the kill there.
Yeah, I was
go
like,
for the jugular.
I'm like, just start stabbing him. Yeah,
Totally.
Keep stabbing him.
So Laurie, she just kind of slumps onto the couch, and we cut to Loomis walking down the street outside, and the sheriff pulls up in his cruiser, and the sheriff asks where he's been, and Loomis tells him, he's here, I found the car, it's 3 blocks down, and he's here, something along those lines. So he tells the sheriff to go around the back of the houses, and Loomis will watch the front, because it's probably one of those places where, the backyards are on the other side of the street, that kind of setup for this community. Mm-hmm. The sheriff leaves, and Loomis continues his patrol. Laurie goes upstairs, and Tommy and Lindsay unlock the door, and they have a little embrace, and Tommy's like, is it the boogeyman? And she's like, it's nothing to be scared of. And she's like, how? I killed him. Except he's slowly creeping up the stairs behind you. And Tommy says, you can't kill the boogeyman. And then they finally look, and they see Michael, and they scream. Now we got the chase score coming back in. Dirt. Durner. And Lori has the kids run in the room and lock door, and Lori enters another bedroom. So she tries an old trick here. She opens the balcony doors, but then hides in the closet. And it's the all open door fake out, thinking that, she ran out through the balcony. And then so she takes a cord of some sort and ties it around the closet door, or a rope or something, the handles to secure them. And I'm just like, why are there doors on the inside of these closet doors? Because all they are, it's not like a super big closet. It's your typical.
Knobs.
Yeah, there's knobs, door handles. There's knobs on the inside because they fold. They're your typical closet door. They fold open, and I'm like, why would you need knobs on the inside? Because it's even a door like that. Well, if they fold open, you could just kind of probably pull them, even if they close behind you or something. But I've never seen that design choice in a door. But
not in, in that type of way for a closet.
Back on track here. So she sits and hides in the corner of the closet. So Michael comes into the bedroom and is not tricked by the fake out at all. So he tries to open the closet, but he can't. She kind of starts whimpering a little bit. And then Michael starts shaking the doors violently, punches out some of the slats on the door. And as he's reaching around with his hand, he ends up pulling on the light string for the light inside the closet. And he's busting out some more slats, And Lori grabs a wire hanger, and then the light goes out because Myers either pulls on the cord again or just, from knocking it around because it's one of those ones that dangles on a string type deal or on the wire. She grabs a wire hanger. I'm just like, no more wire hangers, my ass. Ha! You get the reference? No more wire hangers! I forget the name of the movie, but I caught it. It's a pretty big deal. I forget the name of it, though. It will be one of those things that comes to me after. I've never actually watched the movie all the way through to actually see the beginning scene. I always catch the end of it when it's on TV. Anyways, that lady's totally wrong. You want a wire hanger because then you can fashion it into a weapon. So she takes it and she pokes Michael in the eye, and he drops the knife and staggers back a bit. So Lori picks up the knife and stabs him as he's blinded, and he collapses. And she slowly comes out of the closet, carefully walking around Michael. So she limps to the other door. The kids unlock. Lori tells them to head down the street to the Mackenzie's house and have them call the police. Lori lays there by the doorframe in the foreground, with Michael lying in the background. She's got a brief respite here, and then all of a sudden, Michael sits up, and the chase score sounds. So the kids come out of the fucking house and they're totally wailing like banshees as Loomis walks by. So Loomis kind of walks towards the house and looks around kind of inquisitively like what's going on here. And Michael stands up and he approaches the door and Lori staggers off. He grabs her and is strangling her. I'm like, Michael, you were supposed to strangle her first. You fucked up the entire formula. And so she's resisting and Loomis comes up the stairs to save the day. And as she struggles, she pulls back on the mask and revealing Michael's face. And we didn't talk about the mask here, but so the mask is, everybody talks about this. It's pretty well known. So Michael Myers' mask is, I heard it was a painted William Shatner mask.
It's painted.
Is it painted white?
So I
also heard that it was unpainted. So I didn't know which one was true.
I think it's painted. Yeah, it's a Captain Kirk mask. They bought it for $1.98 at a local store.
Hey, when you're working on that kind of budget.
They widened the eyes and painted it a little off-color white. Originally they were going to use a clown mask, but they didn't do that. They also bought other masks to try, but they ended up going with Kirk. They bought a Richard Nixon mask, a Spock mask, and then Emmett Kelly mask, and they went with Shatner.
Funny enough, a Richard Nixon mask is used in another slasher film of the 80s. It's on my Tubi list. I forget the name of it. That's funny because somebody else is using that. And then, like I was saying, I believe it's House on Sorority Row. One guy has a house or is dressed up as a clown. So good thing they didn't go with that. Yeah, that's how we got his iconic look.
Like him to me. I don't even know what this mask looks like.
Captain Kirk. Well, it looks more like him if it's actually painted, like skin pigment color. And they also screwed up the hair. They messed up the hair on it. They scruffed up the hair.
But sometimes when you do that, you get perfection.
Totally. The scene is there's almost like a moment of vulnerability to Myers here because the mask is off. It almost makes him human-esque or, like I said, kind of vulnerable. And also, briefly mention here, because I didn't talk about it when we were talking about the cast, but Michael is kind of primarily played... Nick Castle gets most of the credit for playing him a lot, and he plays him a bit in Halloween Kills as well. I'm not sure which other ones he came back and did for. I'll do some digging on that when we review some of the other films. I don't think he played him in number 2. But there was several guys who played Michael throughout the film. It wasn't just one guy most of the time. Adult Michael is credited as somebody, but the shape is credited as Nick Castle. I believe Adult Michael is for when the mask comes off. And I think even John Carpenter played Michael in one scene. I haven't read any information about which scenes is who played. I don't think they ever fessed up, or maybe they don't even remember who's played who, or who played him in which scene.
There's a lot, like this one thing.
Oh yeah, I know there's a lot of guys.
I mean, there's a lot of trivia on this movie.
Totally.
One of the days, Robert England was on set, and he was throwing the fake leaves to help out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And this is before Nightmare on Elm Street, even,
Yeah,
mind you.
yeah.
I mean, England was already doing some various horror stuff at this time, and other films, and like some TV acting. So
Dennis Quaid was almost in this movie because he was dating PJ Souls, but
Yeah.
then he had a conflict with some movie, and he wasn't in it.
interesting. So back to the story, since we're almost done here. So Loomis takes aim, and Michael puts his mask back on, and Loomis shoots, and Michael staggers back into the bedroom. Loomis pursues and stands in the doorway, and Michael is just standing there with some heavy breathing going on, as usual. And Loomis unloads into him with the other 5 shots in the revolver. I thought for a moment this was almost going to be a Clue 1 + 2 + 2 + 1 moment, where how many shots did he actually fire, but it's just 6. They didn't go overboard. Unlike some movies where it's like a never-ending revolver. Yeah, the 5 shots slam into him. Michael just kind of staggers back with each shot, eventually falling off the balcony. And we get a stinger as we cut to looking down on Michael's body lying in the yard. And we cut back and Laurie's like, was that the boogeyman? Or was the boogeyman? Because that's what it sounds like in her muffled thing. Because everybody always kind of quotes it as, was that the boogeyman? But I'm like, I even rewinded and replayed it a couple times, and it just sounds like she just says, was the boogeyman? Like she forgot to say, was that the boogeyman? You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
just kind of sounds like she says, was the boogeyman? Which makes sense because she's kind of like, in shock and traumatized and still sniffling a little bit. So you understand that she might, in real life, flub it if you were in that situation. I found that interesting. And I tried to rewind it because I'm like, I thought it was that the boogeyman? But every time I play it, it just sounds like she says, was the boogeyman? It's understandable considering the shock that she can't make a proper sentence. And then Loomis, of course, delivers another famous line that goes with that line. As a matter of fact, it was. And so Loomis walks back over to the balcony and looks, and Michael is gone. And we cut to the theme, starts kicking in, and Loomis is looking on. And he doesn't quite have like this look of disbelief on him, almost like this, and not even like shock, maybe not even kind of like defeated, just like this resolute, like he knows, he understands that this is evil and it can't be killed type deal, sort of. It's hard to describe his look on his face, but it's not like of shock or horror or like defeatism. It's just like, not even content. I can't quite think of the word to describe it here. Anyways, the theme's kicking up, and we cut back to Laurie crying, and now we cut to random shots of various rooms in the house with the traditional mask breathing going on in the background, and it just keeps getting heavier and heavier, and then finally cuts to the outside of the houses, and then roll credits.
Well, the reason why they do that, show different locations, is just showing that he could be anywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, totally. That's what the intent was there. With the heavy breathing that he's still alive type deal.
I'm trying to read something. Yeah, you're good. Sorry.
All right. Nothing to note about the credits, really. Just, still has John Carpenter's awesome Halloween theme playing. The only thing I will say is it says, so it's got Michael at age 6, and then it's got Michael at age 23, played by Tony Moran, which, like I said, I put unmasked question mark. I'm assuming that's for the unmasked scene. That's why he's credited as age 23 Michael. Or maybe just the patient that jumps on the car, maybe? Not 100% sure. But here's the thing. It says age 23 in the credits, but if you go according to the timeline, he was 6 years old. It's 15 years later. He should be age 21. And that's where the error I was talking about was. He's either 21 years old and the credits are wrong, or he's 23 years old and it should be 1980. So that's a little continuity error there. But I don't think they ever reference him as 23 in the movie. They just refer to him as 23 in the credits.
All right, I got some facts here. You were asking before who played the Shape.
Sure.
Or Michael Myers. In a 2010 documentary, it was revealed that 5 different people dressed as the Shape or Michael Myers. Nick Castle throughout the movie. Tony Moran during the unmasking by
Yep, that's what I figured.
Laurie Strode. Stuntman James Winburn. Production designer Tommy Lee Wallace, due to his knowledge of how
I
much
forgot the Lee.
due to his knowledge of how much force would be needed to break props during action shots in a single take, and co-writer / co-producer Deborah Hill in the external wide shot when Tommy sees the Shape for the first time.
I thought John Carpenter also played him at one point.
According to this, no, but also John Carpenter developed this fear meter on like a scale of 1 to 10 for Jamie Lee Curtis, and he's like, I want your fear level at this during like when she's shooting scenes, and that's how they got that.
Interesting.
Let me see here. Just some interesting tidbits. Do you know where the name Michael Myers comes from?
Oh, Behave. No, I'm just kidding. Not off the top of my head.
So Michael Myers was named after the European distributor of Assault on Precinct 13.
Oh, yes, I do remember that now that you mention it.
As a weird way to say that. Kind of. Like I said, we were talking about the budget before, $300,000 to $325,000. This movie made $60 million to $70 million. It's one of the most profitable independent films of all time.
Oh yeah, and that's not factoring for like additional DVD sales and shit that's still going on.
Oh yeah, in 2006, it was put in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress.
Continue.
Or
was that it? I got a few things else to say, and then.
That's it. I got some other stuff for later. Good.
Okay, all right. So, and last few things about my specific DVD version. For like the DVD encoding screen, it's like this what the fuck like screenshot image. It's got like Laurie holding the encoding logo with Michael like photoshopped into the window. It's like not even like a scene that was like in the movie, I think. It's just really strange. Also, because when the movie starts, it just asks like widescreen or full screen, and then you click and it starts playing. But then when you go to, it cuts back to the actual menu. It's got like this exploding 3D pumpkin DVD menu, which is hilarious. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see Annie's tits. We also don't get to see Jamie Lee Curtis's tits. You have to wait for Trading Spaces? Trading Places. I always fuck that up. But yeah, Trading Places, which is probably why Michael tried to kill her. And he got way too impatient, and that's probably why I skipped the formula. And then I have one more fan theory here. Fan theory number 3 that I came up with. I came up with this after watching Halloween 2018, and it kind of goes more hand in hand with that film, but is Michael Myers just the terrible babysitter killer? Because you think his babysitter, I'm assuming Judith Myers was kind of watching over him while his parents were gone. And she was a terrible babysitter and, not paying attention. So that's why he killed her. Then in this film, he kills Annie. I mean, Linda's not a babysitter, but, by association, he comes over there. Now, Laurie's not a terrible babysitter, but I don't know. Maybe he holds a grudge from when they were kids. I don't know. But then in 2018, when he's going on his killing spree, not to talk too much about it, but like he looks at that baby there in the crib as it's crying after he killed the mother or whoever was watching him and doing a terrible job of it. And he just kind of looks and you're like, oh my God, is he going to kill that baby? I'm like, no, he's like, I feel your pain, little baby. I understand your plight. I will kill the terrible babysitters. Just another fan theory I came up with. Maybe the weakest of my 3, but it's also another concept. Now that we're done with the plot breakdown and the tidbits and whatnot, we'll cut to. I mean, there's cut to our.
One thing that I could add,
sure,
because I should have had this from before, but at the end when they're looking down at Michael Myers' body and when he's disappeared, it was Donald Pleasence that suggested, instead of being shocked, they should have a look of, I knew this would happen, and they filmed it both, and they went with Pleasance's idea. I knew I was trying to find.
He's got this like quiet resolve to him, Okay, so that's cool.
But yeah,
anyway, so go to our scoring segment, the last bite. And see, I always come up with these clever things after the fact. Like, I came up with the introduction line after the first episode, so it's in the second episode. Then I come up with these segment names. I don't have a segment name for the plot breakdown, but
To give a little insight here on people's reviews, it has 96% on Rotten Tomatoes and 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
That's too low. So, to the last bite, where we will score the film and give our review here. So, Halloween may not have created the slasher, but established the formula that would set the standard for the genre for generations to come, and demonstrated that you don't need a large budget to create a spectacular film. And while the low budget does cause some concessions to be made, the lack of blood, and the scene with Annie, the palm trees in Illinois, etc., none of them detract from the brilliance of this film. This film is perfectly paced, and while it's not a gore fest like some other horror films, which I do enjoy some of that stuff, but it's not needed here. It's the suspense and the buildup of tension created by the excellent cinematography from Dean Cundey and John Carpenter's fantastic direction, and enhanced by his masterful score. While I would understand why someone wouldn't be scared by the film, to be fair, I'm not really scared by most horror films, but it's this suspense and tension that creates this haunting atmosphere that I just love about this film. The performances by the cast are overall excellent, ignoring the infamous PJ Souls filler dialogue of the book scene, with Donald Pleasance delivering his legendary performance of Dr. Sam Loomis and Jamie Lee Curtis as the bookish but likable girl next door Laurie Strode. They're backed up by your stereotypical circle of teenage friends supporting characters, played by 20 and 30 somethings, that I still find very charming and enjoyable, even if there isn't a whole lot of depth to them. And like I stated in the Intruder episode, do they really need that much more depth to them? We all have friends that are kind of like that. Not necessarily one-dimensional, but if you were to meet them one day just based on how they act, you could summarize them into your stereotypical jock or your ditz and all that. I mean, how much depth do you think the kid sitting across from me has? Ba-doom-ching. Just a joke, buddy. Lighten up.
All right.
And lastly, Nick Castle and company cement Michael Myers as one of the icons of the horror genre with their performance. Michael is a meticulous killer as he lies in wait and stalking his prey, but also an imposing brute as he demonstrates to his, an opposing brute as he dominates his victims with his overpowering strength. The infamous white Kirk mask lends perfectly to Michael's remorselessness and total lack of emotion. I can think of no better description than that of Dr. Loomis. He is evil. Pure and simple. I'm not sure if that line is 100% in here. It might be from a sequel, but who cares? For fellow fans of the genre, you don't need me to gush over Halloween and tell you that it is a masterpiece. And for those of you that haven't seen it, I can't recommend it enough as one of the greatest horror films ever made and required viewing. That's why I give it the top score of 5 pancakes. I know I gave Intruder 5 pancakes because I very much found that film very enjoyable and wacky and enjoyed the silliness of it and the gore. So if you have to distinguish from this, I guess throw some syrup and butter on top for it. Maybe some cherries too. Throw all the condiments on top. Unlike this establishment, which if you're lucky if you get a fucking drop of syrup on your pancakes. J-Bones, what the fuck is taking so long? So what did you think, Scary Perry?
Right, for me, I had a bit of a conundrum coming into this movie, as this is the third Halloween movie I've ever seen. The first Halloween movie I ever saw was Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, which has nothing to do with Michael Myers or any associated people.
Which is why most people hate it, and they're wrong.
Then I saw with you and another friend, Halloween when they...
J-Bones. We saw it with J-Bones.
J-Bones. J-Bones on my order. All right, anyways, Halloween in 2018, the third, whatever, installment, I guess, right? What word am I looking for? The third installment, or
what, Halloween?
The third continuation of it?
The third direct sequel. So it is technically the number 2 in its timeline.
Yes. So I saw that, and
which maybe after we review the first number 2, I'll talk about what they should do with the series.
So I enjoyed that very much when I saw it. I know who Michael Myers is. I saw bits and pieces. I knew that Jamie Lee Curtis was attached to the original. So I've been spoiled by so many other slasher movies that I've seen, and obviously seen the 2018 version, which doesn't lend into this, but it could. I have a conundrum of when I'm watching this movie that some things are kind of lame, but they're lame. I understand they're lame, but not when the time it came out. It was revolutionary. See, that's my conundrum. Oh, watching this, well, this is kind of lame. Oh, like lack of gore, as you were saying. Oh, I mean, the music's good, the scenes are good, but like going back through it again here with you, it just, in hearing your thing, like initially I probably wouldn't have rated it. I mean, it would have been high, but not that high. Because I'm reviewing as I see it, but you have to take account the history of this movie, how prolific it is, how much money this little indie movie made, turning into a franchise, how this influenced many slasher films that I enjoy after it, and just its sheer impact on the horror slasher genre. I will give this movie, this could have been way lower, but I understand the importance of this. And I'm not saying that this is a bad movie if you've seen other stuff and haven't seen it. Please go see it. It makes you understand the importance of it. I'm going to give this movie 4.5 cannolis out of 5. And I really enjoy it, and I obviously recommend it. I'm not telling you that this doesn't deserve like extra and stuff, but that's where I'm going to put it. I'm viewing this as if I've seen this for the first time. I'm not adding the bias. Like, as I understand that, but I'm not trying to add the bias of that. It's hard. It's hard when you see a movie that is the original, when you've seen other, I granted one doesn't really have anything to do with it in the series, and then you see Halloween 2018, and I haven't seen any of the other ones, maybe bits and pieces, but where this is one of the ones that I really have not seen, so it was just hard to put my finger on. But like I said, I think I've come together full circle to what it meant to the industry, and I believe, in my opinion, a 4.5 cannolis out of 5 is a fair score for this movie.
I'm telling you, you're wrong.
Well, to each their own.
No, you're wrong. I can't believe you just said that.
I'm
about
wrong.
This masterpiece.
Do you want me to give it a 5? I'm not giving it.
Now, to be fair, I should retcon my Intruder to a 4.5, but
okay, so now
I'm sticking with my guns.
You're gonna go back.
But
I'm not going back. I'm not going forward. I'm giving it a solid. It's really good. 4.5 is a really good score for this movie. Really good.
You're wrong.
That's your opinion. You can't just say you're wrong. Okay? Because some people could have said we're wrong about Intruder and the Chud, and they could still say we're wrong about this. It's my opinion, and that's not. It's a good score of 4.5.
Your opinion is wrong.
I'm only half a cannoli off from 5, Rocco.
I don't know if I'm going. If anybody would like to now co-host this podcast with me, let me know. J Bones, come across the counter. Step over here.
I'm about to go over there and chokehold you, and you'll find out what
Dolores
happens next.
Dolores, we got to dine and dash. Dine and dash. He's trying to dine and dash.
You think she'll come over there for that? She slows balls.
Oh, when there's a tip involved, she'll come over there. Anyways, that will do it for this episode, everybody. I'm the Mad Pancaker, as always, and thanks for listening.
I am Scary Perry.
Perhaps not for long. We'll see. Tune in next episode when we start the recruitment process for the next guest. Simmer down over there. Don't make me get J-Bones to toss you out of here.
I'm going to get Michael Myers to chokeslam.
All right. So join us next time for more of The Night He Came Home.
Bomb.
Check, please.
Doors.
The International House of Horror.